Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about It Ends With Us, and this movie came out in 2024. It's currently on Netflix. It's directed by Justin Baldoni, if I pronounced that correctly. Probably not. And he also stars in the movie, and Blake Lively is in it too. And sadly, I didn't really enjoy this movie. I know this was like a highly anticipated movie for this year. Not for me personally, but I know a lot of people were looking forward to this movie, and it was one of those movies that's based on a book that people really love, and I guess that's a part of the reason why it got made, and here we are. And going into this movie, I was expecting it to be along the lines of Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey, but in all honesty, it was better than those films, but unfortunately it had many problems with it that just dragged it down for me, and I just wish that it did things differently, and I'll get into those things in a bit, but I kind of want to go through my positives. I thought Blake Lively was good in this movie, and I also enjoyed following her character. That was really what was carrying me through the film, was her performance and following her through the story, and kind of exploring some ideas that I found to be kind of interesting. And the first 15 minutes were pretty solid, although I did feel as though the first 5 minutes were kind of rushed, but aside from that, I thought the first 15 minutes worked pretty well, and without spoiling anything, I thought the ending was well handled, and it didn't come across as goofy or just like handled really poorly or distastefully or in any way that would have really ruined my experience. Like, if they handled it any other way, I feel as though it would have completely ruined this movie, but the way that they did it, I thought was done very well, but unfortunately, those are all my positives for the film. This is kind of a small thing, but some of the actions that characters did that was like supposed to be a big focus on did come across as a bit goofy to me. Like, it almost felt somewhat out of character, and the tone did feel a little bit inconsistent at a couple points when it was characters talking about something kind of funny and lighthearted. Then it went to something very serious and then lighthearted again. I was like, okay, that's a little bit weird. And speaking of lighter tones, I didn't really care for the comedic beats of the film or moments, except for the first 15 minutes. I thought that was the best part. But after that, I just felt most of anything that happened after that point was just kind of hollow and didn't really hit the emotions that it was trying to, or at the very least, I didn't really feel much emotion while watching the film. There were a couple parts where I was cringing. I was like, that could have been handled a bit better. And also some of the editing was kind of bad, like I couldn't tell what was going on, and also the way information is presented in this movie, it's kind of like going along just normal, and then we get flashbacks, and then we go back to modern day, I guess, and then we go back to flashbacks, and that's how the whole movie is structured. And I wouldn't mind that if it was developed a bit better. Like, I do feel as though this movie could have been a miniseries, and it would have wound up being a lot better for me. Like, you could explore a lot more if you just made this movie longer and decided paced out differently, and the pacing overall I did find to be kind of slow for this film. But I do feel as though it wouldn't be so slow for me if I had a connection to any of the characters, or I cared about what was going on, or it was like really interestingly shot, because everything just felt kind of stationary to me. I didn't really care for the music all that much. It was not offensive, it was kind of just there and nothing particularly memorable, and the song choices I didn't really care for. They didn't really add much to my experience. I really liked one of them that was played in the end credits, the very last one. I forget what it's called, but aside from that, I didn't really care for anything that was going on musically in this film. I also didn't really buy the chemistry between our two main leads. And what really hurt all of that is not only did I just not buy it, but also the relationship just felt incredibly rushed to me. It just glossed over everything that would develop this relationship and make it interesting. It just montages over all these things, and you get little hints at to what the relationship is like, but you never really get a full picture. Or at least I didn't really get a full picture. And to be perfectly honest, the relationship between our two main leads, in terms of how it was written and handled, kind of did remind me of the relationship between the two main leads in 50 Shades of Grey. I'm going to be honest. Like, not nearly as bad, but it did remind me of that at points. And the character Ryle, played by the director of the film, there were a couple moments where I did notice that he kind of sounded a bit like Chris Evans at a couple points. It's not really a flaw, it's just kind of like, oh, I picked up on that and it was noticeable. The film overall wasn't terrible. It was just somewhere between kind of bland and somewhat upsetting in a bad way. Like in a way that the movie did not intend for it to be upsetting. And overall, I would call this movie wasted potential because there's lots of things in this movie that I think would work if it was just either in a mini-series or just handed to someone else with a bit more personality or more experience to give it some visual flair, and maybe it would work a bit better for me. But as is, I'm not really going to come back to this movie. There were some things I liked about it, but all in all, it's just a big waste for me. So with all that being said, I'm going to give It Ends With Us a 4 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of It Ends With Us, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Joker Foley Edu, if I pronounced that correctly, probably not. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.